Hello and welcome to part 2 of our light comedy cue we are composing. We're going to structure it this time. We've already got the sounds from part 1 that we like and we need to stretch it out to 1:30, 2 minutes. Remember, if this is your sort of thing, there's loads more styles on a playlist somewhere over there. Like and subscribe, always appreciated. People sometimes say to me, this is the bit they find the hardest, is taking what they've done in the first composition part of the process and then actually putting it into the structure for a cue that's going to work on TV or film. One thing I always do is have a notebook just like that and just put some notes down when I'm composing the first part, and before I've started this section I've actually listened back to what we had from part 1 and made a few notes. So I've got things like, I know that the violas are going to be used for the ending. I've suggested having no percussion in the breakdown, a shorter ending, so shortening this change of key, no clicks at the end. So that's another thing I noticed that I'd done slightly wrong, is this ending part. It's got those 2 clicks at the end. You can't have that at the end of a media cue. Even though it sounds quite nice and a bit Addams Family, what you really need is a button ending, as they call it, or tutti. So you get a hit on the last note. So that's it. That's where you should stop. Little bit of an error when I was playing around last time, but we can correct that as we structure it. So I'm going to get rid of the description because we don't need that anymore. First thing I'm going to do is copy this out towards the end and see what instruments I would like to take out, playing them and muting the different instruments as we go to see what will make a good introduction. Okay, see when I've done that. Okay, so you can see there's the first part of the plan. I've muted quite a few instruments here to start off with, and I've also added in a glockenspiel because it seemed to be missing a little something when everything else was taken out, but I didn't want to add too much to it. The little taps on the Glock work quite nicely. Now, in our original composition, we actually changed the chord we're playing around on at this point. So what I'm going to do is cut at that point. Now, if you put your marker where you want it to be in Logic and then grab the scissors tool and click, it will warn you if you're going to shorten any notes. Now, generally this is okay, but you might want to check some of the MIDI notes just to make sure they work. What this allows us to do is move this out the way a little bit so we can copy this first section again, but add in more instruments by unmuting them. So what I'll do is get rid of the ones that I muted to make the introduction sound good. And then I'm just going to start on this section again. We're going to have to get rid of that intro bar, but we'll come to that and build up a next layer. See you in a sec. Okay, as I've copied this out, what I've noticed is the chord change we've got actually falls around about the 50-second mark, which is probably a good place to have this breakdown. Now, my note said take out the percussion for the breakdown, so we're going to get rid of the shaker and probably the wood blocks. See what else sounds good for a breakdown. Maybe the violin 1 pit coming out might be an option. Bring in the viola maybe. The other thing I've actually added is a harp gliss. Now there's 2 in here at the moment. Now one I'm going to get rid of because I was just playing around with them. And I think it's that first one, because if you do it too much, it's going to be obvious. If it comes in every so often, then it's a bit more unexpected. So if we get rid of that one, the first transition then becomes with the clicks, and then we get rid of the clicks for the second one. I know the metronome's on, but that wasn't actually clicks. Okay, so I'm going to use this now from here as what is going to be our breakdown. So what I'm going to do again is cut this and take out the percussion. See when I've done that. And there you go, we've got our structured cue. let's just have a little think about what we've done. From bar 42 onwards, this entire section is what we had at the end of part 1. The only thing I've done is dropped out the clarinet at the beginning of this section, but we'll come to that in a sec. And I've added the Glock and the harp glissando in this section. So just because we're in part 2, it doesn't mean you forget about any more instruments or notes, because they may come to your head, as happened to me when we were doing this intro section. I realised we actually needed a little bit extra something, and the Glock worked really well. You can see the structure as we go along. So the violin 1 Pitts is the main instrument really here that's driving everything. So we cut it out for the breakdown. In the second half of the breakdown, I've brought back in the shaker and the xylophone. I've dropped out the clarinet again in this first half because this is going to introduce coming back in. You notice the flutes actually start in this final section and the clarinets are not there. So they're sort of swapping with each other. And then for the end, we've got everything back in that we had. I haven't put a harp gliss at the end because it actually rings out quite a lot and it doesn't give us quite that button ending. So hopefully you can see that's one way to think about structuring a piece. In the next part, we're going to mix and master the whole thing, which will be good fun. But for now, I'm going to play the whole thing for you as an outro, and you should be able to pick out the different bits as you see the timeline move along. Like and subscribe, always appreciated, and I'll see you for the next part. Bye for now.